Hi, good evening. I'm Dr. Gail Randall, and it's 6 p.m. for my Instagram TV. So I might as well tell the joke. If you're joining me, you're my date. So anyway, if you've been following me, this is the third in my series on regeneration. And in the last two, if you saw them, I recommended certain things, and I'm going to recommend them again. And I hope you've checked into them because they're so incredibly important. When I was promoting this talk, I was calling it A Dress of Another Color, to be kind of like a play on, The Wizard of Oz, a horse of another color, and how, also to be a play on how many garments we buy and wear every year. And it's plentiful. It's way more plentiful than any human really needs. So it was supposed to be sort of a play on that, but now I'm calling it a change of a dress. Also a play on words, indicating that you don't have to buy a new dress. You can actually buy an old dress, or recycle your dress, repurpose your dresses to be able to wear them longer, and that can have a really good impact on the climate. And we're going to talk about that a lot more. I don't talk much about myself, but I am a board-certified internist. I am a gastroenterologist, and those of you that know me know that I started integrative medicine by teaching in UCLA. I was a professor there for many years. I worked with Emran Meyer, who is truly a gut doctor, and as am I, and I left UCLA once I kind of felt that, I taught endoscopy, and also, which is where you look down in the stomach or up the other way, and I was part of the team that created hemostasis, which is something where hemostasis means stop bleeding, and we developed the technique and did the research so that people don't have to have surgery for bleeding ulcers anymore. And now that's worldwide, and we did that clear back in the early 80s, so that was a great legacy. But it felt to me, and I was very interested in integrative medicine. We didn't have a name for it. We called it complementary alternative medicine, which is really an old way of saying it, but I wanted to proceed with that. It was calling me, and also the planet, as usual, was calling me. So I left UCLA in the mid-90s and opened up one of the first integrative clinics in Malibu. And so that's how it all started. And I began to observe that people, when they are exposed to different disciplines, they make these new connections in their brain and their heart and their soul, and it changes them. And then they turn to look around once they've healed themselves. They see the things around them, and then it's time to heal the planet. So that's the name of my book, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. And since we are on the precipice of the greatest crisis that's ever faced humanity and the planet, I think that we can either start healing the planet at the same time as we're healing ourselves, or look to heal the planet. It's that important. So that's why I'm doing this series. I'm going to give credits. I found a guy who is just incredible. He just wrote a book. He released it after I started my series, which is kind of interesting. Mr. Paul Hawken and his people, he wrote a book called Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. Wow. That is an incredible book. I highly recommend it. You get it. He also has a website of the same name, and there's lots of resources on there. And my idea was to approach this from a positive way, because as I mentioned in my previous talks, even though it's the most important thing, people are so fatigued from everything, their lives, years of being in isolation and COVID, and they're just like, no, what can I do? I'm just this little person. Well, in fact, no one person can do everything. But if you add up all those one persons, we can do something. And then I watched the documentary by Richard, I always like to call him Richard, he's not, he's David Attenborough. And he always does the most amazing work. He's the most planet-orientated man I've ever seen or met. He's incredible. Years ago, I watched his documentary and got really into him, The Great Migration. If you get a chance to watch that, that just inspires you about nature, period. Went to Africa 3 times to watch that Great Migration. But what the one I want you to see now is called The Year the World Changed. And it's about the COVID. When we took ourselves out of the planet during COVID, the most miraculous things happened. You know, I knew a lot of it, but when I watched it, oh my God, you know, it just to see it with your eyes. Every place where animals were going extinct, they came back. Every place the ocean was so stressed, there were no fish, they came back. The flamingos returned to Mumbai. Whales began to talk to each other in brand new languages because they could hear each other. The cheetah babies could hear the mamas calling them for their food, so they no longer went extinct. They reproduced, they multiplied. They increased their numbers again. It goes on and on. Fish appeared in the canals of Venice, all these miraculous things, but the most important thing about all of these miraculous happenings is it was way, way faster than the environmental scientists ever predict. That they could predict. They were astounded. So what that meant is their trajectories, their equations were not accurate. So what that also means is if we go back and do small steps, that it can make a difference. It can make a difference and help reverse climate change. And I've been talking about that. You know, give up single-use plastics, things like that. I now have a compost pile. I'm so proud. I don't add to the carbon debt by putting my food scraps in my garbage. I put them in my compost pile outside. I keep a little compost can inside. It's cute, it's quaint. Carry them outside in the morning. And, you know, my plants, my gardens, my 14 fruit trees in my very small yard, and all my herbs and vegetables love it. They're flourishing. Everybody's flourishing. We're pulling down carbon. We're fixing nitrogen and releasing more oxygen over here in this little space. So, you know, everybody can do that. Everybody can do that. And if you don't have a yard, you can grow stuff inside. You can grow sprouts, hamama sprouts, these lettuce trees they have now. It's amazing. You don't need land, but if you do have land, make use of it. You can do that, and many more things. Listen to the last 2 talks. But today the subject is clothes. Clothes. You know, I didn't realize, I really didn't realize how intense the contribution to the carbon debt is by clothing. And, you know, so we're going to talk about that, and it's really about fast fashion. But the credits I want to give are ESEG, which is the Ecological Action Special Interest Group, and Louis Perkins, who is president of the Imperial Impact Institute, and the Consciousness Guild, which brought them to us, and Karen William Buckley, who spearheaded that. I want to give thanks to all of those people. I want to give thanks to the Paul Hawken and his work and his beautiful book and his beautiful website and all the efforts they're making, also in a positive way. And this incredible Netflix by, it's called The Patriot Act. It's the 5th episode called The Patriot Act. And it's hosted by this comedian, Hassan Minhaj, Minhaj. He's hilarious, but very informative. It's the 5th episode on Netflix. Look it up, of the Patriot Act. It's about fast fashion, and it's called The Ugly Truth. The Ugly Truth of Fast Fashion. Watch that. That'll give you a lot of information. and also the Mckinsey Report. Everything you ever wanted to know about fashion, fast or slow or otherwise. I mean, it's incredible how much they looked at, and what it'll really tell you. What was the take home for me there, other than repeated some of the information in these other areas I already told you about, but is how many watchdogs are on the clothing industry now, which is kind of a good thing, because putting pressure on them to change their ways. But where it's really got to come from is, guess who? Us, the people. Because the clothing industry, and I'm just going to cut to the chase here for a second, needs to feel needs to feel the pressure from the people, that we don't like the way they're doing things. We don't want to add to our carbon debt. And there's little things that we can do, not march into the store and tell them, but there are little things you can do, and I'm going to tell you what they are, to make them feel that pressure. So, and then they some of them are making promises to change already. So that's the good news. Cut to the chase, so you don't cut me off and go, oh, I can't stand this. These are things we need to talk about, and things that we can do something about. As I said in other talks, small steps can bring great changes on this planet, especially if we do it together. So that's the introduction. Okay, the first thing I want to say is clothing and fashion are two different things. Fashion is a desire. Clothing is a need. So we have to differentiate those, and let's unpack this together. The fashion industry in general, whether it be fast fashion, slow fashion, any kind of fashion is notorious for a lack of environmental transparency, and it's, has made a lot of mistakes. Apparently, there is for footwear and clothing, it contributes 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It's equal to beef and pork together. It's an industry powered by coal, oil, diesel, gas, jet fuel, and bunker crude for the ships that the clothing is transported in. They work in open loop production cycles, which means the production waste just goes out onto the land or right into the water. What are the wastes? Some pretty nasty chemicals, let me tell you. They waste 21 trillion gallons of water annually. Well, I'm from Southern California, and that sounds like a lot of water to me. That is a lot of water, no matter where you live. It generates 203 trillion pounds of waste, which includes dyes. A lot of those are toxic. Mordants, which are things that fix dyes to fibers more readily. They're often toxic or heavy metals. Microfibers, heavy metals, flame retardants, formaldehydes, and phthalates. I don't know about you, but when I go in a department store these days, my eyes burn because these chemicals. I mean, I can tell you in a second. It's toxic. So that's the introduction. So what is the truth about fast fashion? This is the thing you need to understand. The most of the onus, although the slow fashion has it too, but fast fashion is the thing that has really blown the top off this thing. Fast fashion means it's really about getting these garments out extremely quickly. So let's say an influencer puts a dress on Instagram, or Gucci comes out with a new dress. Within days, these fast fashion companies will come up with a knockoff, and within a week, it'll be in the store. So they have new inventory in the store every week. Every week. And there's a real pressure. See now, buy now. Now, the expensive, like high-end stuff, the Burberry, the Gucci, all those guys, Dior, whatnot, those clothes last for a long time. These fast fashion clothes are made to be disposable. Most of them are only worn about 3 times. And that's an incredible waste. Incredible waste. You know, the holiday season is coming and they predict $1.1 trillion will be spent on clothes. $1.1 trillion. In the 1980s, the average American bought 12 new pieces of clothes a year. Sounds about right to me. Now, it's 68 pieces of clothes a year, minimum. And they only wear them 3 times or less. So these chain retails see this, you know, and they want to push their products. They want to get more money, and it's growing and it's working. So they have incredible pressure, like I said, the see now, buy now motto. And people begin to expect that they're not going to last very long, and they're kind of okay with it. Well, I don't think that they really realize, so that's why I'm kind of trying to raise the little red flag here. I need you guys to realize this is not the way to go. We need to go back towards buy your clothes that are going to last for a very long time, or at least know what to do with them if you're not going to wear them. So let's get to that. People want the feeling of luxury without paying for it, without paying the full price. The companies in question are companies like Zara, H&M, and they've pioneered and perfected this fast fashion, which is a quick response in manufacturing. 1.6 billion pieces of clothing are generated for waste per year. 1.6 billion. I mean, that's just insane. So what we buy lasts half as long. In 2015, there was more greenhouse gas international flights. I mean, the carbon debt from the fast fashion was more than greenhouse gases in international flights and maritime shipping together. That's in 2015, and now, of course, it's worse. This is what really blew me away, because I wear yoga pants, okay? One pair of yoga pants takes 342 barrels of water. One pair. Oh my God, that's incredible. 33% of Vescos, which is something that comes from ancient forests only, is in these clothes. So we're also adding to the clearing of ancient forests, and about 70% of them are just dumped. The average American throws away 80 pounds of clothes a year. Wow. Where do those go? They took a survey of, average Salvation Army stores in New York, and they said they had 18 tons of clothes every 3 days. 18 tons of clothes? That's incredible. And they're not recycled through the process where they come back to us. Do they come back to our garments? They're sold to undeveloped countries by the pound. And then oftentimes the undeveloped countries don't even use them. They either incinerate them or, turn them into something else, maybe. And to them, they're like insults. That's what a Ghanaian representative said. So they're trying to make these clothes so that you want to buy them, and that after you see the next week's clothes, you don't want them anymore. You want to buy the new ones. So that's what it all depends on. So we have to change our attitude about our clothes. Do we really have to succumb to that pressure on Instagram or from our friends or whoever's putting the pressure on us? I have an idea. I tease with my friends. They go, where'd you get that? Is that new? I go, no, I went shopping in my closet. Most of us has so many clothes in our closet, we don't even know what we have in there. And if you really look through it carefully, you got stuff in there. You might even still have the tags on it. Or Shop in your friend's closet. Make it a party. Make it a girls' day, you know, and for sure you're going to find stuff in your friends' closets that you're going to want. So these are things we can do that can save waste, save carbon going into our atmosphere. So now, to try to appeal to the consumer, H&M has a line called Conscious, and Zara has a line called Join Life, and they're really making, well, we call them green claims, but they're false claims. Like they have a garment, they have a tag on it that says totally recycled material. Well, actually, if you look into it, what it refers to is the tag. Only the tag. Now that's just not good. You know, and they're supposed to be eco-friendly clothing. They're just like the other clothing, but they have eco-friendly tags. Crazy. So if they figured out, if you wear your clothes for 9 months instead of 3 days, you could decrease the carbon footprint from clothes by 30%. 30%. That's huge. If you bought 2 pieces less of clothes per year, you could, that's decreasing the carbon debt by 6 million tons. Oh my God. Or if you bought 1 used item, or say got one from your friend instead of buying a new one, that's like 500,000 cars off the road for a year. 500,000 cars off the road for a year. Oh my God. So these are small things we can do. Buy 1 less new thing. You know, recycle your clothes. Give them to your friends. I'm sure that we can all do this. We can't buy into this. You have to live or look like the newest thing. We don't. That's just pressure. And think about the planet. 80% of the clothes end up in landfill or incinerated, which of course adds more to the carbon debt. And they just have these huge campaigns called greenwashing, like I said. And we just have to be able to demand transparency from the fashion industry, especially the fast fashion industry and the regular fashion industry. Burberry admitted to burning $37 million worth of their product in 2018 to prevent it from being discounted. Are you kidding me? The United States, an estimated 35.4 billion pounds of garments were landfilled in 2020. More than 60% of clothing is synthetic. Now that's the real bummer. The synthetic clothes are oil. So they're predicted to stay there for hundreds of years in the landfill. We got to start thinking about what we're doing. You know, we just get sort of hypnotized by shopping and get that shopping high and go, let's go do it. But think about where they're going and what you're doing to the planet when you're doing that. When you can have options. You know, that the new title of this talk, A Change of Address. They have stores that have used clothing, beautiful used clothing. Check it out. And then maybe take your clothes into those clothes and recycle them that way. I don't know if the Salvation Army is the way to go because they have so much of an excess. But there's other ways to do it. I donate my clothes to a church, and they make use of them. They love them. So there are things like that you can do. I wanted to share with you that actually some of these companies, like I said, are beginning to wake up and trying to show that they're going to make differences. A key partner in the new textile economy is H&M, one of the biggest offenders in the beginning. And they pioneered a $26 billion fast fashion company committed to carbon positive in its supply chain by 2040, meaning they're not going to add to the carbon chain as much. And by 2030, they've committed to utilizing only recycled yarns and sustainably produced materials. Now, what I haven't mentioned yet is in the 1800s, and this has always been the case, working for the fast fashion or any fashion industry is akin to slavery or indenturement. And they usually use immigrants, or they use people that don't have a choice or can't say, that they paid them in the 1800s 34 cents an hour. And we're all like going, gasp. Guess what they pay them now? Right, the same. 34 cents an hour? That means they can't really buy their food. They can't keep up with the economy. They can't sustain themselves. You know, a lot of these people have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs. You know, this is not how we can treat people. We've got to get them up to standard wage, and they're way, way under, and the conditions are horrific. So there is a company called Askit, and it's part of a worldwide response to the impact of clothing. And they say it's really about having smaller companies take up the challenge to be making long-lasting, durable goods, durable clothes. And they give people these tickets and for their clothes, and it shows the carbon imprint on the ticket. It shows how much carbon, it shows how much they're saving, it shows, you know, how much money they're saving by buying more durable clothes that they can wear longer. And, you know, so watch for these kind of companies and buy your clothes from them. Patagonia has classically been, you know, an admirable, you know, company, very philanthropic, but their clothes also are made to be durable. And their policy is you can wear your clothes as long as you want, and you can always bring them back at any time. You can bring them back to be repaired. You can bring them back to give them back to the company, and they'll give you something for them. They give you like credit for them. Now that's something, right? So we really need to get the message across, but the best way is to do something about us. You know, it's a grassroots deal. Just like the other things that I've been talking about, these small steps. It's make a choice. Make a choice to buy clothes that are durable. Make a choice, you know, not to throw your clothes away, or if you do, do it in a way where the clothes can be repurposed in a dependable way. And, you know, go shopping in your friend's closet. So, exactly. Quality over quantity for sustainability. Thank you very much. And that's Gut the Heal Nurse, or Gut Heal Nurse. And Gut Heal Nurse also says an appropriate use of natural resources. Yes, ma'am. When we changed on this planet to look at the earth as a resource as opposed to a source, that's when we started going off in the wrong direction. So we need to come back to center. Just like always, when we self-heal, we come back to center. When we heal the planet, we need to come back to center. You know, the earth needs attention too. And if we're constantly taking from her, then she's not flourishing. But if we're giving to her, we're also remembering she's our source. She's our mother. Whenever you take something from her, say thank you. Say thank you, and believe it or not, that helps her come back too. Not just these little changes, but also your attention, your love. You know, you've seen your plants grow better when you love them. Your animals do better when you love them. Your husband do better when you love him. It's the same with the earth. The earth is a living, breathing being. And she needs our love and attention right now more than anything. So let's do that. And if we do all this together, the more people that are doing this, the better she's going to get. And remember, those trajectories, like, yeah, we're getting worse faster than scientists ever thought, but the earth is very sensitive. If we start giving back and we start doing these little steps, buying less clothes, buying organic, planting our own food, then the earth will respond very, very quickly. I see a trend buying more hybrids, buying more electric cars. That's great. Not everybody can afford that. But maybe you can do stuff like carpool or, don't fly so many places. Flying is a big one. If you can drive, make a road trip out of it. Instead of fly, fantastic. Fantastic. It seems funny to tell people to drive, but it's better than flying if you really have to go somewhere. Maybe you can make a fun thing out of it. What else? Okay, so I want you to get this book. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it. Yeah, I did mention it. The Mckinsey Report. Look at this thing. This is everything you want to know about fashion. Look how big it is. It's huge. And the thing is, there are all these organizations which are non-profit governmental organizations. So NGOs, not GMOs, NGOs, and they've got their eye on the clothing industry, and the clothing industry knows it. So, we need to look up who they are and get into those organizations, see what you can do. The other thing is on the Regeneration website, there are many, many good suggestions for what you can do as a one person. And then, like, every time I put my groceries in the shopping cart and don't use those little plastic bags, I feel so good. I feel, oh my God, I'm doing something good for the planet. Does it really matter? Yes, it does really matter. It really, really does matter. So get away from plastic. It's just an addiction. Get away from non-organic food. They just make it to get you addicted to it and keep you sick. It's not really real food. It's wiping out your microbiome in your gut, right? Gut nurse. And, it not only kills weeds, but it kills the bugs inside of you. And then what? You can't properly digest food. Your immune system, 70% comes from your gut. Your neurotransmitters, 70% comes from your gut. That's how you feel, your happiness, your overall well-being. So don't eat non-organic food. You're just poisoning yourself. You're ruining your gut and you're poisoning your body. Glyphosate is one of the worst poisons on the planet. It's ubiquitous now. It's everywhere. Even if you buy organic food, it's in there because it goes to the atmosphere. It's everywhere. So the most that we can do is stop buying the poison. Then they won't have a market for it. Just buy the good stuff. I used to tell my patients, please buy organic food when it first came out, and they'd be like, oh, I can't afford that, Dr. Randall, what are you kidding? I said, you can't afford not to. This is the food of the future. Organic food, regeneratively farmed food, and meats is the only way to go. That's going to help our planet flourish. That's going to help our bodies flourish. That's going to stop poisoning our children and our grandchildren. And it's going to start curing the climate change in one generation. Let's get on the boat. Does anybody else have something to add? That was a good addition, gut health nurse. I've been a gastroenterologist for, I think, 30 years. And like I said in the beginning, I worked with Emmer and Meyer and was interested in the microbiome before anybody else was. And made all those inventions and things like that. But once I saw, when I was at UCLA, in terms of endoscopy, that, they kind of had it together, I said, okay, I'm going to follow my heart now. And I went out and began to do the integrative medicine thing and the gut health and, still always plugging for the planet all along. That's my purpose. But now I see so many people are into gut medicine. So I'm going, good. I mean, I'm a board certified gastroenterologist. I'm like, with the science behind it and all that. And I'm still a profoundly exquisite gut doctor, but I think there's so many people doing it. I can focus more on this desperate need that we have now. And I'd like to have you guys join me and join Paul Hawken and the others of us that are facing this climate change. This is the biggest thing, the biggest need that we all have on this planet together right now. So I want more than anything for us to come together in that knowingness, for us to take these small steps and watch the large changes happen together. The more we do it, the more people join up and take the small steps, the sooner it'll happen. I was in this great conference this weekend, and everybody that ended up going into my breakout group seemed to be into climate change. It was just synchronistic stuff. And one of the women was a big leader in South Africa, and she was working on the other side. She was working in a group of people that was approaching all the countries in Africa and putting pressure on them to change their ways to decrease carbon output and all of it, and so I told her, like, I'm working from the ground up, and so we got it covered. We need it all. We definitely need it all. So does anybody else have any ideas out there? What's an idea you could come up with that would be simple that we could all do? What's an idea that we could do together for climate change? Well, like I said, organic food, regenerative food, get off plastic, it's just an addiction. Grow your own food, start a compost pile, recycle your clothes, buy less new clothes, especially these disposable kind, because that's just adding to the carbon debt way more than we can afford. All right, you guys, I love you. I see not too many of you hung out, so if you want to DM me, please do. I'm here for you. Okay, love you guys. Bye-bye.